Oh my God. Grace, like, my heart is like throbbing, like real hard. Because this story that we want to talk about is, I feel like it's really personal to me.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, last night I was reading the story of Tamar in 2 Samuel 13.
Mm-hmm.
And I actually was tearing.
Mm.
And I have the same feeling right now. Like, I didn't think I would feel like that. And can I take you back to class?
Yeah.
So can you also give this up to Dr. Tammy Schultz?
Yeah.
So we had a professor who introduced Tamar in the Bible in the way that I really want us to introduce her this today. And I remember that day when that story came up, my darling Grace walked out of class. Grace, what was that for you?
Yeah. So that brings up a lot of memories. The lecture on Tamar is a very rich story.
Right.
But it was painful because it addresses sexual abuse.
Right. Right.
And there are so many things about Tamar's story that we want to talk about today, but I think that starting with just a little overview of the Tamar story, if you haven't read it, we encourage you to go to 2 Samuel chapter 13 and read it. But a summary is Tamar is a daughter of the king, and she experiences sexual abuse by her brother. While the brother sees that she's a virgin and wants to do something to her, and it pains him. It says in the text that he's not able to do anything to her, and he has a friend advise him.
Jonadab, interesting. I mean, that one like really shocked me because I started thinking, like, if Jonadab, the friend to Amnon is a half brother to Tamar. If Jonadab wasn't there to advise Amnon to pretend that he was sick for her to get access to her sister, for him to defile her, what would have happened? Like right there, I was like, friends, the people that advise you, the people that speak into your life can mess your life up real bad and mess the lives of those around you, right?
Yeah. Yeah, because of this friend's advice, Tamar is tricked into making food for her sick brother.
Yeah.
And then he sends everyone out of the room and he rapes her. And then afterwards, he sends her out of the room. It says he hates her
even
with more
than
hatred
the love
than
that
he had loved her.
How is that, Grace? Like, how is that?
I mean, that's what sin does to us.
Oh my God.
It causes us to hate even the things that we loved. I don't know. It distorts the whole.
Do you also think it could be projection? Like, I've done something so bad, and instead of like introspecting and coming back to my senses, and there's no way that he could have, I'd say, right the wrong.
Yeah.
There's no way that he would have made that wrong right. But Tamar tried to come up with solutions. Like, how can we right this? How can you make my disgrace less?
Yeah. Tamar asks her brother before he rapes her, ask the king for
My hand in
permission.
marriage.
He will not deny you my hand. And he
Grace, let's talk about that. Like, you want to rape me, and before you rape me, I'm like, instead of doing this, instead of defiling me, ask my dad, the king, for my hand in marriage, then you can do what you want to do. Then what does he do? What does Amnon do?
He ignores her and he rapes her anyways. And then she asks him, please don't send me away. Because if you send me away in that culture, she's now defiled.
Exactly.
And if she's sent away, there's really not much else that can happen for her societally.
Right. And even after that, she's begging, kinda like,
Yeah.
like, marry me, don't send me away. Then you've defiled me. Then take me. I was a virgin. You've defiled me. Then take me.
She's so worried about the shame.
Exactly.
And it's a shame honor culture. And many people live in shame honor cultures still today.
Right.
But I think this shame rings true for any survivor of abuse.
Yeah.
It's like, I'm so hurt and ashamed of what has happened that I'm gonna even try to maybe appease my abuser in order to lessen the shame.
Oh my God.
That's not true in every scenario, but in many it is. It's actually, that's a trauma response.
Right.
The fawn response. We hear about the fight, flight, freeze response. There's also the fawn response, which is to appease the person who's hurting you and do everything to make them happy.
Right. So that they can lessen your pain, so that you don't hurt as much as you're supposed to hurt.
Yeah. And so I think that's one thing that I really resonated with me in Tamar's story was the shame.
The shame.
I've experienced a lot of intense shame surrounding the abuse that was done to me.
Right.
And I know I'm not alone in that.
Right. And I mean, without minimizing like sexual abuse, I think the same is to many kind of abuse. Like there's a lot of shame in abuse, physical abuse, emotional abuse, spiritual abuse, like whatever kind of abuse. I think there's a lot of shame around that. And mostly it's because no one wants to hold that space for you. No one wants to sit with you in that shame because your emotions are too much for people. People don't want to acknowledge that you've actually gone through something that is painful. Because probably it's like, just going back a bit to like Amnon's story, do you think it was more of projection for Amnon? Is that the hate he felt towards himself that he projected it onto the sister?
Yeah, I think you're spot on with that. I think that Amon was feeling so much hatred towards himself, so much shame about what he did, that instead of dealing with it, he once again placed more shame onto Tamar. And he said no. And he chose not to be accountable for his actions.
And I feel like that's where we are as a society. Like when people are going through shame, when people are going through pain, we shame them instead of stepping in and holding their hands. We feel like probably sometimes it reflects on our own actions. Like what you're going through probably is what I've put someone else through, or what you're going through is what I go through, but I'm silent. Who are you to think you can talk about it? Who are you to think that you cannot take it? If we have been able to take that, why do you think you cannot take it?
I think that could be part of it. I think it's subconscious. And I also think that silencing survivors of abuse is a way to distance ourselves from the pain of abuse.
Spot on.
If you're not talking about it, then I don't have to put myself in your shoes. I don't have to think about what I would have done in that situation. I don't have to feel that pain. But if you talk about it, then I have to think about it. And then that's painful.
So it's like we protect ourselves from our pain by stopping other people from experiencing and expressing their own pain. And I was asking myself, like, why is this story in the Bible? How is a story? I mean, like, I wish someone can feel it the way I'm feeling it right here. The story that starts with a woman who is described as beautiful, a virgin, a graceful woman. The same woman at the end of the story ends a desolate woman. Grace, how does a victim end desolate?
Yeah, I think that is the cry of my heart too. And I think that's what really, going back to the class, that's what made me leave class that day was this deep-seated fear that I am the desolate woman.
Yes.
And that's going to be the end of my story.
Right.
Because the last that we hear of Tamar is that she lives a desolate life.
Oh my God.
And the Hebrew word is shamim, and it means to destroy, to ruin, to make desolate. And I think those are very real fears for survivors of abuse. And I know they're very real. They are very real fears that I battle sometimes still today. And I don't know why God allows the story to end there in the Bible, but I do know that my story doesn't end there.
I mean, I was just going to say something like it ends there, because I know that there's someone asking, like, how come, like, I've gone through this abuse, and instead of God coming through for me, instead of people coming through for me, instead of getting support, instead of God helping me to rise again, I'm desolate. Mm-hmm. I think this story is there for us to know that this can happen, and for us to rewrite our stories. Mm-hmm. Because so many people are desolate, and from, again, in the same context of the same story, so many people are desolate because of being silenced, Grace, and this is what I'm tired of. Tamar is silenced by her father. Tamar is silenced by the brother that avenges for her 2 years later.
What that brother says to her, the brother who avenges for her says, Tamar, don't take this to heart, after he learns what has happened.
Right.
Can you imagine that kind of gut-wrenching response to your pain?
Yeah, and there's another version that says, he says, Tamar, don't talk about it. Just don't talk about it. Mm-hmm. And I think the worst thing, I think one of the things that I am assuming that hurt Tamar is, okay, I'm not supposed to talk about it. I'm not supposed to cry about it. I've been raped, but I'm supposed to keep it in, all this pain. Mm-hmm. And worse still is that the person who was supposed to love her, the person who was supposed to protect her, is caught between, this is my son, that is David, and this is my daughter. So how do I come in and support, and who do I support? Mm-hmm. This is a supposed king, that's Amnon, and this is my daughter. How do I come in? And Grace, what does David choose to do?
David ignores it.
Ignores it. He goes quiet. And Tamar lives a desolate life. Desolate woman. Who is a desolate woman here? Who has been silenced? Who has been going through pain alone? The story of Tamar ends with her being desolate. But as Grace says, your story doesn't need to end there. You don't need to end in desolation.
Yeah.
You can rewrite your story. Mm-hmm. Grace, how can you rewrite your story?
I think you can rewrite your story by choosing to heal. And I say that because everyone wants to heal, mm-hmm. but actually going through the process of healing is painful.
Very painful.
And it's worth it, though. You can rewrite your story. There are so many times when I've thought, this is how my life is now.
Right.
This is my reality.
Right.
And while that's true, suffering is a part of my reality. Mm-hmm. It's not my whole reality.
Right.
And I have experienced so much beauty and life and growth by choosing to speak up.
Right.
And use my voice and share my story.
Right. And that's so bold of you, Grace.
Thank you.
That is so bold of you.
And you don't have to do that in big ways by getting on a video or writing a book.
Right.
Sharing your story can look like talking to one trusted person.
Right.
That's how it started for me.
Right.
And I'm I am getting my voice back.
Yeah, because I think one of the things that that the devil steals from you after you go through abuse is taking your voice, stealing your voice, is silencing you.
Yeah. Yeah. It is a very voiceless place to be.
Voiceless
being
place.
abused.
Yeah, yeah.
And the shame that we were talking about really keeps you silent.
Right.
But you do have a voice. It's in there somewhere. You can use it.
You can use it, yeah. Did you ever experience the David kind of situation where you're silenced, or the Absalom's kind of situation where someone is telling you, shh, don't say anything, just keep it in?
Yeah, unfortunately, part of my story is that I have had people not want to hear my story, right?
Yeah.
And that became a narrative in my mind. I internalized it, that okay, because I'm not supposed to tell this story,
right,
or because this person didn't want to hear the story, then no one wants to hear it.
Right, invalidated.
And just feeling like it's not safe to share my story.
Right. Yeah, and I remember, I don't know if I should say that, but I remember the first person you told you, don't tell, don't even say.
Yeah.
Don't say that this happened to you here because it's going to invalidate our ministry.
Yeah, I was definitely silenced by the first people that I talked to.
I don't know what kind of isolation you've found yourself in. I don't know what desolate means to you. I don't know if you went through something that left you desolate. I don't know if you've gone through something, or you're going through something right now and you're living the Tamar kind of life. Honestly, that is not God's will for you. I don't know why that story is in the Bible. Did I say I don't know why? And I said I know why that story is in the Bible. I think it's because it serves as an example that actually this can happen. You can go through this pain, and this can be your end. You can live a desolate life. It wasn't your fault. I think that is what hurts me most about Tamar's story. She was a victim. She is a victim.
Yeah.
So that tells me that you can be a victim and still die a victim. Because God has given you a choice. And I think it's also more on trusting God, Grace.
Yeah.
Trusting God with your pain. Instead of, I'm not blaming Tamar, but instead of locking yourself in a room and and just living in that shame, you can choose to give your pain to God. You can choose to just lay it there and let Him have it.
Yeah, and let me say that sometimes giving your pain to God can look like locking yourself in a room and crying out to Him.
To Him.
Yeah.
Good. Say that again.
Sometimes crying out to God can look like locking yourself in a room and crying out to Him.
Right. Is that a good place to end? Do you have something else to tell someone who is in desolate, suffering in desolate?
I think just to echo what we said in our earlier video, Jesus is hurting with you.
Wow.
And He doesn't want you to stay in that desolate place.
Oh my God, I like that. That hit me again. Jesus does not want you to stay in that desolate place. So what can someone do with their weakness? You don't feel strong, but what can you do in and with your weakness?
Give it to God and give it to a trusted person.
Surrender. Total surrender. And we are therapists who go for therapy.
Yeah, we're therapists who go for therapy.
Right, because we believe in what we do and we believe in the work of therapy.
Amen.
Amen. Go for therapy. Go for therapy. To be desolate is to be joyless, disconsolate, and sorrowful. Desolation is a feeling of great unhappiness and hopelessness, the state of a place that is empty or where everything has been destroyed.
Tamar's injustice is never recognized. Her pain is never given a voice. No expression, only repression. We want you to know that there is life beyond Desolate.
It's all the things you never